Welcome everyone to the Mind of Christ here on YouTube. My name is Jetson Amos, and I am so excited to be joined today by my friend Bethany Juhl to discuss the mental health impact of raising special needs children. I've known Bethany and her husband Steve for close to 20 years, and they are wonderful, God-fearing people, so I am really looking forward to our conversation. Bethany, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. So Bethany, there's going to be a lot of people that watch and listen to this video that might not be familiar with who you are or know anything about you. So why don't you take a minute or two and tell us a little bit about your family, your work, and specifically your son Jetson, who will be the main topic of our conversation today.
Okay, well, thanks, Justin. I know you from all the way back in high school, and that's where I also met my husband, Steve. And we've been married for about 18 years, and we have 4 kids, ages 5, 7, 10, and 11. Steve is a teacher, and I am a school counselor. And our family is just very active. Our older kids love to play sports, and we both coach youth sports. And so we're very active and involved in school and in sports. And when I was pregnant with our youngest, our 4th son, his name's Jetson, he was diagnosed with some brain abnormalities. So we had to go to a lot of specialists, and doctors told us that he would probably not be born alive because of the severity of his brain abnormalities, but that if he was to be born, he would have just a really short life. And they offered to terminate the pregnancy, which we chose not to do. And throughout the whole pregnancy, we were followed very closely, and things started to kind of look a little bit better throughout the pregnancy, but they still couldn't tell us, exactly what his quality of life would be. So we were just dealing with a lot of unknowns. Our first 3 kids were completely healthy, completely typical birth, easy, straightforward births. So when Jetson was born, he lived in the NICU for a month. He had severe seizures where he would stop breathing and require oxygen and rescue medications. And so, of course, those were really scary. And the doctors just kept telling us, he could be telling us goodbye. Like, just be prepared to say goodbye to your son. And then he required brain surgery because he had a lot of extra fluid in his brain. And then again, with that surgery, they said he may not wake up from the surgery. Tell him goodbye. And so they were just trying to prepare us for, our worst fear. That was a really hard time. They helped support us, and Jetson did pull through all of those things, thankfully, and he has only overcome all of these obstacles, all of these diagnoses that he has, and he has grown, and he's now 5 years old, and he's just amazing. He's a miracle, and he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is wonderful. As you're talking, I was just feeling just the heaviness of that, and I can't imagine just how difficult that was for you guys. But then just knowing where he is now, and man, yeah, miracle was the word that was just coming to my mind as well. So yeah. All right, well, Bethany, my next question is, what were the biggest challenges that your family faced as you adjusted to navigating life with the special needs and attention that Jetson required of you guys?
Yeah, well, we were just completely thrown into some new territory, some new worlds. So we were thrown into this medical world, and we were thrown into the special needs world. And these were both just completely foreign to us. I like to tell people I've never, ever wanted to be a nurse. Never thought I could do the things that I'm doing now with my son.
Mm.
But he has many diagnoses, and I can kind of just list those off so people can have kind of an idea of what we deal with. So he has holoprosencephaly, hydrocephalus, epilepsy. hearing impairment, vision impairment, developmental delays, and feeding issues. So that means that he has different doctors for each one of those diagnoses. And then he also has different therapists too on top of those doctors, which means that he has appointments for all those different things. So just learning how to manage all of those appointments and manage our time. So that was a really big adjustment for our family because Steve and I both work full time. So just finding time, and I had to take a lot of time off work for all these appointments. Um, and then another challenge is the fact that he was on hospice, and because the doctors were just not sure of how long he could live when he was born. Um, and so, as a parent, my biggest fear ever is losing a child. So, I think that was another a huge adjustment that we had to just kind of cope with and deal with was our son is on hospice, but we have these amazing hospice workers and who are supporting us and answering all of our really hard questions. But then balancing that with all of these therapies that he's receiving because the therapy is
Yeah.
supposed to make him stronger. And so we had therapists telling us, like, oh, we've seen kids like this before. He can get stronger. He can do these things. And I'm like, but he's on hospice. So
Mm.
just kind of, um, merging those two things in my brain was kind of hard. Um, and then other logistical things like finding childcare for him.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find childcare, people who feel comfortable in dealing with and caring for our special needs. And then just balancing life with our three older kids as well
Yeah.
and having time for all of their things.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were talking, that's what I was thinking of. Even if Justin were your only child, like that's a lot to navigate. And on top of that, you have three other young kids
Yeah.
depending on you guys to be, attentive to their needs as well. And wow,
Yeah.
that is so much to juggle. Yeah. Well, Bethany, I'd be curious next to know how would you say God has grown your faith and dependence on him through being Jetson's mother?
Well, I've been a believer since I was 9 years old. And so this whole journey with Jetson has definitely been kind of a turning point or a stepping stone kind of in my faith journey because um, I've been through trials before in life, but this one is definitely like the most difficult valley that I've been in um, because there's so much grief that's come with this journey. With the initial diagnosis, we grieved. Um, and then after he was born, we grieved just every kind of new thing and new obstacle. It's a new kind of cycle of grief. And so throughout the journey, I really had to lean into my faith and I journaled a lot. And so if you don't mind, I thought I would read a journal entry that I wrote when I was pregnant. And I just wrote, I surrender Jetson to you. May you be glorified with whatever may come. You are enough in the midst of this trial. Your grace is sufficient and gives me strength. So, I journaled a lot and I just tried to immerse myself in the truth of God's word and of who he is. Um, and I just remember, like, in those really difficult moments, I really could feel God's presence, and it's a reminder that God's always with us, even in these valleys, um, and life it just feels uncertain and chaotic, and so just clinging to the truths about God just kept me grounded and
Yeah.
keeps me grounded now.
Yeah. That's awesome. It makes me think of the psalm, he's close to the brokenhearted.
Mm-hmm.
Just in those times of deepest grieving,
Mm-hmm.
he was with you through it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, Bethany, my next question is kind of two part. I'd love to hear just how having a special needs child impacted your mental health, and what did you find helpful when you were struggling the most mentally and emotionally?
Well, Justin, I'm going to say something and it might sound a little weird at first, so I'm going to explain it. But before having children, my mental health was awesome. And I love being a mom, but just um, my mental health definitely um, changed after becoming a mom. And what I mean by that is just, for me, motherhood is stressful, and um, trying to keep kids alive is stressful for me. And so then having Jetson on top of that
Mm.
just compounded any anxieties, any worries, and any fears that I had already had. And so my mental health was greatly affected after his birth. Um, so much so where I was having trouble functioning, especially like in the NICU when I was supposed to be having conversations with doctors, listening to them and making these really hard decisions. And I couldn't focus on what they were saying because of all the beeping around me and all of the other sounds going off. Um, and I would just be crying all the time.
Mm.
And so I knew, because of my background as a counselor, and I knew that I needed help, and that this was, I wasn't functioning at my best. And thankfully they have social workers there in the NICU that are readily available. So I asked for help, and I said I need to talk to somebody, and I probably need some medication, and they agreed. And so I was able to get counseling there, and medication that I needed to just kind of get through that those really difficult moments. Um, so that's one thing that is needed. Another thing that really helped me was just to be intentional about my sleep, because I know I'm a person that needs a lot of sleep, and sleep affects my mental health. And so I would, intentionally not sleep at the hospital. I would sleep at the Ronald McDonald House. Um, and even now, I have to be really intentional about getting enough sleep to take care of all these kids, um, and just prioritize that. Another thing that has helped me is connecting with other moms of special needs kids, because it can feel really isolating. Um, and so just like connecting with another mom, like, oh wow, you kind of get this. You've been here. You've done this, and so that was just really encouraging, to know that, okay, other moms do this. I can do this, kind of thing. Um, Something else that I've noticed that helped me is just getting outside. And I never really noticed how, like, being outside can affect my mental health, and just getting sunshine and exercise, and just prioritizing those, coping skills.
Yeah, that's excellent. All of those are wonderful things that would help anyone with their mental health, especially someone that's kind of in the valley,
Hmm.
right? So, way to go, realizing I need help and being proactive about it. Yeah. Bethany, what would you say are some ways people have really showed up in your life to help you guys feel truly cared for and loved?
Gosh, we were really overwhelmed with our family and friends, and our church family, our work families, and just the support that we received from people. I mean, we had people volunteer to watch him as when he was a baby, and so that stressor was lifted off me. We had people donate money to us because I was missing so much work, and so
Mm.
kind of that financial burden was lifted. We had people bring us meals. Um, we had people just visit us in the hospital. We had people visit at home and just sit with us, or hold Jetson, or do our dishes. Or um, we had people go with me to appointments. We had people help watch our big kids, if we needed to both be at the hospital. because he's had a lot of surgeries since his birth too. So, and oh, we also had a friend make Team Jetson T-shirts, and so people could buy those to support us and raise money for us. So just all of those things were just amazing. We were just overwhelmed um, by people's support and love, and just really felt like the body of Christ like wrap around us because, yeah, it was difficult, but when those people were showing up like that, it made it just a little more bearable for us.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I remember buying one of those Team Jetson shirts, and I still might have that thing. I don't know. I know I've wore that puppy out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome. Well, Bethany, my last question is, what advice would you give to parents who don't have special needs children and might not understand the unique challenges that so many families face? I'd love to hear just what you would like to say to them.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would like to say just be patient. Be patient with me and be considerate. There's just a lot that goes into our everyday. So we may have to cancel plans last minute, or we may not be able to do something that we want to do. For example, like before we go anywhere, we really have to consider a lot of extra things and plan for extra things like medicine, because if the medicine is given too late, or we miss medication, then that means he could have a seizure. We have to consider and pack food because we have a special diet and we can't eat what typical kids eat. So we have to, make sure we have an extra G tube because he likes to pull his out. Is, accessibility. We have to consider that. Can we push his wheelchair, or will we need to carry him? Will there be steps? Will there be a place I can change his diaper? He's getting, too big for those baby changing
Hmm.
stations. And then there's all the other just sensory considerations. Will it be overstimulating for him or understimulating? So, I'll need to pack some toys that he can actually see and that he actually enjoys. So that's just kind of a glimpse before I go anywhere. some
Yeah.
some questions that just run through my head, and so I just love it when my friends offer to help. um,
Hmm.
I'm I think a lot of us special needs parents are pretty good at accepting help because we know that we need it. Like I always say, I need extra arms to carry things, and so I just appreciate any offers to help.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's excellent. Well, Bethany, before we wrap things up, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to say anything that you'd like kind of about this topic to everyone that's, tuning in. So if you have something you'd like to say, the floor is open.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to say that this the world of special needs is really hard, but it is also really really beautiful, and um, I think we all kind of may have a stigma about special needs, or especially if you don't know anyone with special needs, and I would just kind of encourage people to challenge that thought. Like maybe you find yourself feeling sorry for people with special needs, um, and just kind of ask yourself where does that come from? Why do I think that? And usually it comes from like somewhere somewhere that people with special needs are less than typical people, and I just would really challenge that because people with special needs are people created in the image of God, and our God is creates diversity, and so people with special needs shouldn't just be an afterthought or somebody to be pitied, because they have a lot to offer and they have a lot that we can learn from them.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, Bethany, thank you so much for giving up some of your time to have this conversation, and thank you for being vulnerable. I know this is not always the easiest stuff to talk about, and so I know that this talk will be an encouragement and a blessing to many people that are going to come across it. So I cannot thank you enough for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Yeah, you bet. Take care. God bless.